The following podcast is a proud member of the Blue Collar Roots Network. Find all the shows by visiting bluecollarroots.com.
This is the podcast that's more fun than watching the paint drying marathon on the Science Channel. And now your host, Bill Spohn.
Welcome back to episode 20 of the Building HVAC Science podcast, where it's our goal to help create better, more knowledgeable HVAC and building performance technicians. And we're trying to do that by helping the two professions better understand each other with the ultimate goal of making customers happy in the homes they live in and the buildings they work in. Today, I think we have that perfect illustration of making people happier and more comfortable. And the end result is having a higher health aspect and a lower energy bill with a couple of products, one called Aeroseal and Aerobarrier. So let's listen in to Bryan Barnes, who's with Aeroseal LLC, tell us how you can make super tight walls and super tight ducts with his product. Give a listen. Very happy today to have with us Bryan Barnes, who's with Aeroseal LLC. How you doing this morning, Bryan?
I'm doing great, Bill. How are you?
Great. Aeroseal, that's an interesting company name. Our topic today is how to build a super tight house, or in your words, I think it was game-changing technology for HVAC. Tell me a little bit about the background of Aeroseal. Like, where did this concept come from? What is it?
Actually, it's a great question. The Aeroseal technology actually was invented by Dr. Mark Modera back in the early 90s through the Department of Energy, California Energy Utility Company grants to invent a simplified and more technology-based way to seal air ducts. At that point, the industry kind of understood that the air ducts in homes did leak through a number of studies through the DOE, between 20 and 40%. And he was tasked with trying to find a solution to that. And through 6 or 7 years of research, he did invent the Aeroseal process, which is an aerosol-based sealant that seals the ductworks from the inside out. The Carrier Corporation purchased that technology in late 1999 and held the rights to that technology for 10 years. And after that 10 years, Dr. Modera, along with a group of private equity investors, purchased it back from Carrier. And that's really when the growth and explosion really took over. So early 2000s, LLC was focused on the duct sealing technology, again, which is the aerosol-based mist. And within the last 3 or 4 years, Dr. Modera has also invented a similar type process, different delivery method, to actually not only seal the ductwork, but now seal the entire home envelope. And that process is now called Aerobarrier. And Aeroseal LLC has the master licensing rights for both those technologies.
I've seen charts. You mentioned the DOE had seen this 20 to 40% reduction. I recall seeing this chart that shows like the effective SEER delivery of a system and how much different factors impact that. Am I thinking along the right lines there?
Absolutely correct. I mean, there's a number of benefits from the duct sealing technology, which is for the homeowner, the comfort side of the equation, eliminating hot and cold spots between rooms and or floor temperature differentials. Indoor air quality, they can breathe healthier air because the systems that are in attics and crawl spaces and basements are not infiltrating whatever's in those spaces into the airstream. Energy savings, and exactly what you hit on is over the last 2 or 3 years, we now understand that the system performance of an HVAC equipment is the duct sealing and proper installation is a huge component of that system working as it's advertised, is what I call it. So if a consumer buys a 20 SEER air conditioner and they don't do anything with the duct system and it leaks 20 to 40%, that actually will operate about a 15 or 16 SEER air conditioner. So as much consumer research is out there today and as much focus and initiatives the OEM manufacturers are putting on making higher SEER equipment and higher AFU equipment, it is critical in the industry, regardless if it's a DOE, the Energy Star, BPI, or any third-party verification, that the ducts have to be airtight to make sure the air gets where it's designed to go and the system perform as advertised.
That's two things there I want to kind of build on. Performed as advertised, but it's the installed performance. It's not like there's anything wrong with the equipment or necessarily wrong with the box, but there may be an issue with the way it's delivered to the space. Now, can you talk a little bit about, like, you probably get challenges to your product? Like, I never do, but but you're like, why would I want to spend the money? Why would I want to invest in that? I mean, it's the air's all inside the house. So what's wrong with that? How would you respond to that?
I'm going to answer it in two parts. First of all, the cost standpoint for the homeowner, there's usually anywhere between a 2 and a 5 year payback from a return on investment just on the energy side. But again, most of the people who do duct sealing utilizing the aerosol method is doing it because of those three other things. They want the system to work as advertised. They want more comfort in their home. There's now a solution for that, and there has been in the past. And they want to breathe healthier air. So those combinations, but from an energy standpoint, their payback is 2 to 5 years. The biggest piece on the second portion of that, actually, it's interesting you mentioned that. As of last week, we have traditionally said, based on consumer feedback and our certified dealer network, that even in the ductworks that are located in the thermal envelope, they are saving, based on actual bills, between 5 and 15%. And we actually just conducted a Comfort Institute and the Greater Cincinnati Energy Alliance, two third-party companies, just released a study actually this week on Monday of 11 home tests in the Cincinnati area, that even with ducts located in conditioned space, it still leaked about a little over 11% to the outside and resulted in about a 10% energy savings. And these are homes that only had Aeroseal done, and they looked at, and one home actually had a 16% increase, and that was pure energy bills 2 years before and 2 years after the duct sealing. So it does make a difference, even from an energy standpoint. But again, the biggest thing is depending on where that air is going in the home and then infiltrating back in, from an indoor air quality standpoint, it makes a huge difference.
So you mentioned something here about dealers. So is there like a training process, territories? How does that all come to be?
Absolutely. We have certified Aeroseal dealers throughout actually 9 countries and over 700 dealers, and they are certified to do the aerosol process, which is, again, from the inside out. So especially in retrofit applications, Bill, which you mentioned earlier, is doesn't make a difference. We can now seal an entire duct system by making one injection point down by the plenum that will get to all the ductwork behind, in attics, in crawl spaces, behind walls, and finished basements. The old solution, and there really wasn't one from an expense standpoint, is to tear the walls out and kind of start over and make sure all the ducts are tight. Now they can do it from one injection point, and because they pressurize the system, they can actually seal and get down below, normally on the residential side, below 95% reduction in leakage.
Wow. So injection point, that sounds like surgical or medical there, Bryan.
Yes, it's actually cutting a hole in the ductwork, which they don't allow me to do because I usually cut my hand off. So
it could be medical for another reason afterwards.
That's right. We want to use the new tools that you have to do that. So
I have 3 friends who have had Aeroseal done on their ducts, and they all rave about it. Eric Preston, my co-owner at TrueTech, Jim Bergman, my former partner at TrueTech, and Buck Taylor, a friend of ours who does a lot of utility work, and they've all had it done and all really raved about the results for their family. And really their family members is who commented on the comfort aspect.
Absolutely. One of the stories I'd love to tell, and this is actually when I was working with a contractor, we had a home that had a 14-degree temperature differential between the finished basement level and the upstairs bedroom. So they had a main floor in between. And the parent actually was telling us that their son, who was a teenager, would be in blankets in the basement and be stripping by the time they got to the second floor. And within the 3 hours we were in the home to seal the ductwork, that temperature differential went to 1.5 degrees. They could not believe it, obviously because of increased airflow at each of the registers upstairs and the return side of the system working better. But that's a story that I just love to tell. And everybody doesn't have a 14-degree temperature differential, but in most cases, I guarantee they probably have a 4 to 8 degree temperature differential between their floors. And this will definitely help that aspect.
And they don't also have someone who's willing to strip their clothing off walking upstairs.
That's true. That is correct.
That's like the image that we're left with here. So
That's right. There you go. That's a good story. So, yeah.
So you also mentioned Comfort Institute. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, Comfort Institute is our international training arm, and a number of different ways. It actually helps contractors really move from beyond the box, so to speak, from the HVAC box into looking at the house as a total unit. Whether it's ducts, whether it's envelope sealing, whether it's insulation, but it really goes to, they help utilize the tools, they help teach how the tools are, and they have a number of education sessions to help people understand and be able to really treat the root cause of the problem and not just the symptom.
When you say root cause, we're really saying ducts aren't sealed like they should be when they're installed. And they're built into the walls, they're buried in walls, they're buried in crawl spaces and attics. They're in places that sometimes you can reach with effort and other times you really can't get to. So, say in a perfect world, ducts could be installed correctly. Is that correct? With sealants and things?
Even in new construction, ducts can be installed correctly, but manually doing it with the traditional mastic or tape, first of all, is a very labor-intensive way to seal the ductworks. And in reality, even really good crews can get down to 15% of the system leakage. With Aeroseal, again, we can get below 95% reduction down to less than 5% of the total system. But it's also a lot easier and quicker. So now they can hang the rough in new construction and pass any current codes or any anticipated codes coming up. So they don't have to worry about, did they pass, did they not? Most of the contractors, new construction that are in the higher level IECC codes, 2012, 2015, and coming up on 2018, will still fail that test on the ducts about 30% of the time. So you absolutely know where you are. It's real-time data, and you know exactly where you are as far as the code, meeting the expected codes. And that's the big advantage, even in new construction. So it's retrofit getting to the ductwork, but even in new construction, it's actually saving a lot of time and energy from a labor standpoint and letting the software and the aerosol system actually seal the ducts and meet the codes.
Can you walk me through the process, just the kind of the basic steps, whatever 5-6 steps that are involved from the time somebody arrives on site?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing we traditionally do is we will block the registers with a closed cell foam block about a 1/4 inch down. And then we also block the equipment if the equipment is in from a coil standpoint. And then we actually pressurize the duct system. And we do a pre-test for that. So we know exactly how much leakage we have before we get started. And then we seal the system. Again, we seal it using an aerosol-based product. It's a liquid sealant, and through heating and drying becomes an aerosol mist and flows through the duct system and only finds the pressure change, which is the actual leak, and forms a scab and seals that and moves on. So it doesn't coat or line the ductwork. Again, once we reach the targeted level of where we want to be from a code standpoint or a comfort standpoint, we will stop the sealing process. We will do a post-test, duct blaster test. So again, and print a certificate of completion. So you know exactly where you start, you know exactly where you end, and during the process, you can monitor the process to make sure it's progressing in the fashion that our dealers have been trained to look at. So
great. So what would you say is a typical time from the time someone arrives on site to the time they're packing up and leaving?
Yeah, traditionally on retrofit jobs, it's usually 4 to 6 hours if you're looking at a national basis. And if you're in new construction, we have contractors that are doing 4 homes a day. We have contractors that are doing 3 homes a day, depending on schedules. So, but on retrofit, it's usually in and out of a home on a national average 4 to 6 hours. And we have some that obviously do quicker depending on the configuration, the leakage, and the type of ductwork.
Again, going back to that medical analogy, the injection point, you're really treating this house, this system as its own individual. You have to sort of take the pre-test and then see that the surgery or the whatever you did works. And then you take the post-test to make sure you're there. But it's really cool. You can monitor your end result as you're moving along. So you know when to stop. Your dealers know when to stop.
Absolutely. And that is one of the biggest advantages for our contractors, or especially in new construction. Because again, they used to do it and then they come back and hope they pass the test. They know exactly where they are, and they can either exceed that test or they can obviously make sure they do achieve it. So they don't have to worry about trips back and redoing it again and trying the process all over again.
People that listen to this show I think there's some consumers or some people in building performance, and there's some people in HVAC. Now, what would be the qualifications if somebody wanted to be a dealer for this product? Do they reach out to you, and is there an application or?
There is an application process, and we review, obviously there's some minimal standards of making sure they've been in business, they've got a good rating, they understand the HVAC system. So we have HVAC contractors, we have duct cleaners that understand the duct and air movement system. We also have home performance experts that understand, obviously, what the ducts from a component standpoint are, how important they are to the overall success of the home. So there is a requirement. They can reach out to us directly, or we are at a lot of trade shows. We also do a lot of webinars from an education standpoint. So,
And it's fine to plug those right now if you'd like.
Yeah, Aeroseal.com is the easiest place to go. It's got a number of our case studies and a number of our videos from a whiteboard animation from a consumer standpoint. It also has a number of home performance and the importance of ducts, how important they are to the home on the website. So that's probably the easiest one to do, yeah.
I recently did a webinar for you guys to talk about new tools and test instruments for 2018, and you have several more people appearing, and that's open to the public, quote unquote public, technical public?
It's actually open to the dealers, but if a consumer would like to listen to any of those, they are more than welcome. They can still go on our website and register. Absolutely. So,
circling back around to Comfort Institute, how is that deployed and integrated with Aeroseal? Like, do you give classes? How does this come about?
yeah, a number of different options. When a dealer becomes certified and signs on as a certified contractor for us, there's a couple of days of sales and marketing training, and there's also a couple of days of technical training, how to use the hardware, software, and how to actually apply it in the market. And they actually do a couple homes during training. The Comfort Institute side continues to support us, and primarily the contractor, with training on really how to sell it. We have coaching sessions available to new dealers at the CSR level, at the Comfort Advisor level, and at the service technician level, and ability to recognize opportunities in the home that not only can obviously help the contractor, but also can truly, again, really focus in on not just changing a fan out of an HVAC system, but understanding why it failed. And then what can you do to actually help the homeowner from a comfort and indoor air quality standpoint and energy? And contractors who really want to become the one-stop shop for that is truly the contractors who are going to be, in my opinion, successful in the next 5 years in this industry.
We haven't yet talked really at length about Aero Barrier. And that's, so we talked about Aeroseal. So Aeroseal LLC is the main company. Aeroseal is this division that does the duct sealing. Comfort Institute is the house as a system, whole house training element, which really makes so much sense. And now you have Aero Barrier. So when did that come about? How did that come about?
Yeah, actually, again, about 4 or 5 years ago, Dr. Moldera started to see if, since it was working so effectively on the duct system, how can this technology be expanded? And through research and development, and obviously test markets and test applications through Lawrence Berkeley Labs, which is in the Midwest Energy Efficiency Group, which is what he's part of. The technology, again, is brand new, and we just released it at the International Building Show in January. But it's truly transforming, in my opinion, the way residential, multifamily, and commercial buildings seal the building envelope. Traditionally, it's been a manual process, and now it's computer controlled, software controlled. And again, it's got the same features that the Aerosol product or Aeroseal product has. That is real time. They know exactly where they are. And instead of looking at CFMs and equivalent square inch holes in the ducts, it's looking at air changes per hour. The technology won the 2018 Most Innovative Product and Best in Show Award at the IBS show in January. And the nice thing about this, as standards continue to improve, in my opinion, but make it tighter for the envelopes, they're obviously escalating. And any building envelope enhancements have been challenging to achieve. So now Aero Barrier can help builders meet IECC, Energy Star, or even passive home requirements more consistently and more importantly, and more cost effectively than traditional envelope sealing. And again, it takes the guesswork out of the sealing. You know exactly where you are. You know exactly if you need to get to 3 air changes per hour, you can do that. If you want to get to passive homes, which is 0.6 air changes per hour, you can do that, where the traditional manual envelope sealing today averages somewhere between 5 and 8 air changes per hour. So it's a huge technology. It's quicker. You don't have to guess and try to find holes, and you can do it pre or post drywall, which is a huge advantage from a new construction standpoint.
Walk me through that process. So you have a new home, and this is for new homes or existing too? Or
right now, we have tested in retro applications, but primarily right now we're focused on new construction, because that's usually where everybody's trying to meet the codes. And in reality, what we end up doing is we go in, instead of pressurizing the duct system on the Aeroseal side, we pressurize the home envelope. And again, that's why there has to be a roof. There has to be, in some stage of construction, the ability to truly put a blower door on and actually pressurize the ducts. And we actually there's an aerobarrier.com website. You can look at the videos, but we actually put little nozzles in each of the rooms. And then we actually, again, pressurize the whole house through the blower door and through a computer software program. It takes the liquid sealant, dries it, and becomes an aerosol mist, and then again finds the leaks in the entire envelope. And again, we can monitor that to see if we need to get to 3 air changes per hour or passive foam or 5, depending on what the goals of the builders are, with that to be tested, certified, and guaranteed.
Wow. This is like this liquid is smart. It looks for the...
It does. It just looks for and that's what's so amazing about whether it's ducts or envelope. It doesn't coat. You would think that this mist going through everything would coat all the walls and coat all the floors and everything, and it doesn't. It truly, through the patented technology, only finds the pressure differentials, which obviously the leaks or the holes or the plumbing inlets, and it truly just continues to form that seal until that hole is sealed. That's what is so neat about this product, is it takes the guesswork and the user error out of the entire system, because it's all software controlled and computer controlled, to the point of we set it up, we run the computer, we seal it down to where it needs to be sealed, and then we depressurize the house and we leave and it seals.
Got it. I just skipped over this. Tell me about you. You're a very well-spoken representative for this company. Where did you come from?
I don't know what my mom would say, but no, I've spent over 25 years in sales and marketing roles, primarily in consumer product companies. And over 10 years in the HVAC industry, I've been at the distributor, contractor, and the manufacturer level. My overall passion, Bill, is really, I call it enhancing the consumer experience. And for what I do today with Aeroseal, that means education of the industry on the new technologies, but more importantly, make sure they understand that they have to adopt and at least start having a mindset to move toward treating the whole house as a system. And that's kind of what my passion is. That's what drives me. In addition, although we don't claim medical, obviously, solutions, but in Aeroseal duct sealing, we had a young lady in Bellingham, Washington, that had a rash on her face. The doctors couldn't figure it out, a number of different tests. One of our contractors sealed her home and the rash went away. Now, all we can believe is that because the duct system was in unconditioned crawl spaces and attics both, that a lot of that infiltration and a lot of that stuff that was in there, something in that was making her allergic. And those are the stories that I love. Whether it's the temperature differential or the indoor air quality that makes me healthier, that's the passion I have today, and that's just education. And we need a lot of education in the industry to continue to move toward what I believe are new technologies and new tools to make not only the contractor more productive, but truly help the consumer and really change their lives one home at a time.
Awesome. I'll put in a plug for the Healthy Home Environment Association. I don't know if you heard of that, but it's a new group that I'm on the board of directors for. And it's looking at these same kind of things, providing a healthy home environment. I think that's what you're alluding to. It's not a medical benefit, but you may have knowledge to make the environment more healthy. And then it's up to the person how they react to it. But usually a healthier environment results in better health for the individuals.
Absolutely. And I'm in line with that. I have heard about it, and we're actually going to participate with you on that. So
Cool. Are you just rolling out this Aero Barrier? Is it available in all markets, or is it still sort of on a phase-in?
We actually have rolled it out. We completed most of our, testing applications last year and did a number of projects, residential, multifamily, and some commercial. So we are full go at this point. We have a direct crew through the Aero Barrier site that does a lot of the major jobs. We also have a couple builders who have purchased the machine and are doing all their homes. Mandalay Homes in Texas is one of them. They are a great builder who focuses on Energy Star and passive homes, and they're doing a great job, and they just decided to seal every one of their homes they build using this technology. So it is a lot of interest, a lot of projects, and it is truly It is game changing. It's revolutionary in that, I mean, we've done envelope sealing the same way for 100 years. And this is one way that we're real excited about in the technology to make it more effective, profitable, and simpler for the builder and the contractor.
Got it. So just sort of like a little challenge point here. How about durability? How long does this last? I guess if it's been out there for, almost 30 years, coming on 30 years, that you must have some long-term data on it.
Yeah, we do. We actually guarantee it to our contractors for 10 years from a duct sealing standpoint, and the expected life through a number of testing, third-party testing, is 40 years expected life of the sealant material. So, traditionally, once you do it once in your home, you should be fine. To my knowledge, we have not had any consumer warranty claims at all at the headquarter level, which tells me it's still working. But through a number of different tests, it stays flexible and malleable. So it expands and contracts with the heat and cold of the system, which makes it a huge advantage over like mastic. And that's why we guarantee it for 10 years. And the aerosol or aero barrier product is the same way. We guarantee it. And if there's any issue, we're going to come back and we're going to take care of that.
So how about the size of the hole? I think as a technical person, I would like to know like how big of a defect can this correct?
Yeah, officially in our literature, I'll tell you, Bill, it's 5/8 of an inch hole, but that also can be a 5/8 inch hole seam that goes 40 feet in the air. It will seal just about everything. Now, our technology actually will seal any size hole. The question becomes is how much sealant and how much time do you want to spend doing it? So I've actually seen it seal a 7.5 inch hole in a ventilation shaft, but it took obviously a couple of gallons of sealant and additional time. But in the normal course of productivity, we say 5/8 of an inch seam, hole, whatever it is, it will seal under normal course of productivity. Now, again, it'll seal up to an inch. It'll seal up to a couple of different things. In residential applications, our contractors will traditionally on major holes will seal it manually, whether it's using foam or whatever, but it will seal up to, in our literature, up to 5/8 inch. And again, that can be a seam all the way up the side of the hotel, or house.
That's for the Aeroseal, the aero barrier the same way? Or does it respond the same way?
Yeah, air barrier is the same way. So anything that's a pipe fitting or electrical outlets or anything like that, it should have no issue sealing at all.
Do you collect information from your dealers and your direct contractors? Like how low do they go? Or maybe you mentioned that before.
Yeah, on the air barrier side, the envelope sealing side, it's based on what the builder's goals are. So we can meet passive home requirements at 0.6 air changes per hour. We have some builders that want to meet 3 because they can't get there manually. We also have some builders that just want to get to 5 air changes per hour. So it depends on the goals of the builder and the home, but we can definitely meet and exceed the passive home requirements using this technology.
Very cool. Very neat. Anything else you want to cover to talk about with our listeners here?
The only thing I would say is, as said earlier, I truly believe that the future of the HVAC home performance network as a consumer, there's a lot more research out there versus 20 or 30 years ago where an HVAC contractor came in and said, you've got a cold room, put a new duct or a new furnace in. But from a consumer standpoint, there's a lot more research out there. And I would challenge every HVAC contractor or duct cleaner or anybody that's in the home to truly be successful in the future. As I said, you have to have the ability to treat and provide solutions that treat the cause of the problem, not just the symptoms. And those who will be able to do that or are moving in that direction, in my opinion, will be the one-stop shop and the most competitive set in their market. Whether it's new construction or retrofit, you've got to move toward treating the entire system as a whole and treating the entire home as one system. And the same thing as a building. And we need contractors who want to move in that direction instead of just what I call going beyond the box. And I think that's really critical for their success in the future.
That sounds great. So just sort of wrap up, I want to let our guests know this is Aeroseal and Aero Barrier. Aeroseal provides the process to create a very tightly sealed duct system for air handlers in commercial and residential. Is that right, Bryan?
Correct.
Okay. And Aero Barrier would do the same for the building envelope, again, in residential, commercial, institutional situations. So has anyone compared it to like blood clotting? Is that a good analogy or a bad one?
It is a good analogy. Actually, when I tell people, if you think about, because a lot of people, consumers don't even understand they have duct work in their home. And I always tell them, just think of a body. That is kind of the veins that delivers the blood. right? So if your heart's the HVAC equipment and the mind's the thermostat, the mechanism to deliver the blood to all the parts of the body that actually make it work effectively is the duct system, and that's kind of like the veins. And from a skin standpoint, that's kind of the envelope, right? So if your skin's not healthy and not reproducing, you've got to take care of that too. So you're absolutely right. Whether it's a medical analogy or a car, or you can put in a Cadillac in your basement and you don't feel the air in the tires, you can't get where you want to go. And it's kind of the same thing with the duct system, the HVAC box. So both analogies work extremely well.
Great. So I always do what's called a hot seat question. Surprise.
Yeah.
Either what's a favorite quote of yours, or the best paraphrasing of the quote, or a book that you've read recently, or a book that sort of made an impression on you, or even perhaps a movie you've seen lately that might have made an impression on you, just to learn a little bit about you as a person here, Bryan.
That's a really good question. And one of my favorite movies is Remember the Titans. And it's not because of the race implications or the coming together, which is very critical and important in our society, but more importantly of really striving to do more than you believe you can do. And as a coach or as a marketer or in sales, that's our whole purpose, right? It's not our own self-gratification. It's the ability to truly make sure that we help them succeed and reach their potential, especially with people who don't believe they can get there. And that's probably the most satisfying. So Remember the Titans is a great movie, in my opinion, just from the ability to take people who didn't believe they could do something or didn't have the talents or skills to do something. And with the proper coaching and with the proper support, they achieve that. And that's kind of, I know it is a hot seat question, but that's my answer to it. So
Cool. So tell me, are you or have you ever been a coach?
I have.
Okay. All right. That comes through. That comes through like loud and clear. I was going to say, I'm sitting here praying. I hope he answers this, because I think I read you right there. So that's fantastic. Well, really cool. Well, thank you for coming on today, Bryan. And I learned a little bit here, and really excited to see this technology progressing and getting to see more people using it and building better houses and systems.
I appreciate it, Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Building HVAC Science Podcast, where we spoke with Bryan Barnes about the products Aeroseal and AeroBarrier and how they're really revolutionizing and changing the way, the technology upon which homes are built and HVAC systems are installed and deliver the air they're supposed to deliver. If you want to keep up with other things that I find interesting, you can follow me on Facebook in the Building HVAC Science podcast page. Just type in Building HVAC Science on Facebook. You can also find more information about the network that I work in, the Blue Collar Roots Network, by going to bluecollarroots.com. Or if you want to reach out to me with any questions or want to become a sponsor of the Building HVAC Science podcast, please email me at bill_spohn, SPOHN, at bluecollarroots.com. If you're in the market for any tools or test instruments mentioned in our podcast, not the Aeroseal or the AeroBarrier system, but tools and test and measurement equipment, you can get those at TruTech Tools, TruTechTools.com. That's my company. You can use the discount code HVACBS for a nice discount. Well, thank you for listening to the Building HVAC Science podcast. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. Clicking subscribe when you download will help be sure that you're up to date with all the latest happenings. Pretty much the podcasts are coming out on a weekly basis. Hopefully you listened all the way through to the end of the podcast, and you actually must be listening through now because you're hearing me now. So you probably heard Bryan Barnes' little discussion there, his favorite movie, and he talked about believing in yourself. So I'm going to share with you a quote. Quote's from Brad Henry. We're going to close with this. The quote is, "Believe in yourself and the rest will fall into place. Have faith in your own abilities, work hard, and there's nothing you cannot accomplish." Okay, everybody, go out and have a very well accomplished day, week, and rest of the year. Take care and join us again on the Building HVAC Science podcast.